Timothy Blick's incisive wit and audacious comedy seemed like the ideal combination for entertainment when he appeared on Family Feud. However, nobody could have foreseen the sinister underbelly of his impulsive reactions. Timothy made a startling quip during the game about regretting his marriage, leaving the audience and host, Steve Harvey, in disbelief. Today, Timothy's in the news again for a darker reason than his sense of humor. His notorious appearance on Family Feud, where he was accused of a horrific crime against his wife, Rebecca Blick, suddenly seems uncannily prescient. What went on behind the scenes of the life of this seemingly ideal couple? Let's discover the terrifying tale that has everyone in shock. Timothy Blick's life before Family Feud. Timothy Blick seemed to enjoy everyday life in Quincy, Illinois, before his notorious appearance on Family Feud. After graduating from Quincy University, he was well known for his competitive spirit and gregarious demeanor. Timothy presented himself as a loving family man, balancing his duties as a father of three and a sales professional. His wife, Rebecca, was a highly esteemed nurse in the medical field and was even nominated for a Daisy Award, which recognizes exceptional nurses. On the inside, though, their marriage was everything but perfect. Rebecca confided in close friends about her mounting concerns for her safety, while Timothy's associates later characterized him as a man with a short fuse. The pair appeared to be the stereotypical suburban family and frequented local activities, but many who knew them privately saw problems in their relationship long before the tragedy struck. Their story's defining theme was the sharp difference between public view and personal problems, which left many wondering if any warning indications may have stopped the unimaginable. The eye-opening Family Feud episode. It was intended to be a fun family event when Timothy Blick took the stage on Family Feud. In the 2019 episode, Timothy and his family competed against a different squad in Steve Harvey's signature humorous setting. But there was one instance that stuck out. "What was the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?" Harvey inquired. When Timothy replied, "Saying I do," the audience laughed. Viewers, aware of Timothy and Rebecca's tense relationship, found the comment unnerving, even though it appeared to be a lighthearted joke. According to reports, Rebecca didn't think the joke funny and told pals it was uncomfortable and unpleasant. Later, clips of the incident reappeared as proof of deeper problems in their marriage. As the evidence against Timothy developed, the joke turned into a terrifying soundbite that was repeated over and over again. In retrospect, what appeared to be a casual comment on a game show was a warning sign of the stress that was building in their household. The decline of Timothy and Rebecca's marriage. Once thought stable, the Blick's relationship fell apart behind closed doors. Timothy and Rebecca were negotiating rough seas when they appeared on Family Feud. According to court records, Rebecca had requested a restraining order because she was afraid of domestic violence. Beginning in 2021, the couple's divorce procedures grew more acrimonious as they battled for custody of their three sons. The pair were depicted in conflicting ways by friends and family. Rebecca was characterized as a strong, compassionate woman who dedicated her life to her work and children. However, Timothy allegedly became more domineering and erratic as their relationship soured. During the inquiry, an intriguing item came to light. Rebecca had begun maintaining a thorough notebook in which she recorded her worries about Timothy. This journal would eventually prove to be very important to the case. Her increasing terror was exposed in these essays, which also illuminated the unseen anguish of a dysfunctional marriage. The unbelievable Rebecca Blick murder. When Rebecca Blick was discovered dead in her house on February 23, 2023, the story reached its horrific climax. Since the 41-year-old nurse had been shot several times, murder was quickly suspected. The heinousness of the act astounded friends and neighbors who found it difficult to understand how such violence could occur in their small community. Investigators focused on Timothy right away. On the night of the murder, a car that looked like his was seen close to Rebecca's house on neighborhood surveillance tape. Ballistics research also connected Timothy's firearm to the scene of the crime. A terrifying revelation that added to the growing body of evidence was a string of texts Timothy sent that alluded to his hostility against Rebecca. Many others pointed to the case, which garnered national media coverage, as a sobering reminder of how domestic conflicts may become tragic. Rebecca's murder rocked Quincy, and the community was forever changed. Timothy Bliffnick's arrest. A significant turning point in the case occurred when Timothy Bliffnick's arrest in March 2023. Numerous pieces of evidence were highlighted by the police, including his questionable actions in the days after Rebecca's death. Timothy was accused of throwing away weapons and clothing that might have been evidence. Prosecutors exposed Timothy's internet search history, which includes disturbing questions about committing and concealing violent crimes. In an especially devastating move, Timothy insisted he was being framed and insisted on his innocence despite the evidence against him. His defense, however, found it difficult to refute the prosecution's story. One particularly unsettling detail surfaced. Rebecca had written in her notebook about Timothy's alleged covert threats against her throughout their acrimonious divorce procedures. Those who had previously considered Timothy a gregarious and charming person were taken aback by his detention. Timothy's decline from grace was swift and sad, and the public was enthralled with the court battle that was taking place as he faced the prospect of life in jail. Response of the community to the disaster. The murder of Rebecca Bliffnick left the Quincy community in shock and anguish. Friends and co-workers remembered her as a devoted nurse and devoted mother at candlelight vigils arranged in her honor. Rebecca's dedication to her patients and compassion were honored posthumously by the Daisy Foundation, which honors exceptional nurses. In the meantime, Timothy's reputation in the town drastically changed. Once friendly waivers, his neighbors looked at him with distrust and terror. The tragedy served as a springboard for local advocacy groups to increase awareness of domestic violence and stress the significance of identifying warning signals. It's interesting to note that some community members considered Timothy's performance on Family Feud and how it now appeared to portend the sinister events that would transpire. The tragedy was a terrible reminder that outward looks can be deceiving and spurred more extensive conversations about the underlying hardships within seemingly normal households. The Bliffnick case served as a warning to communities worldwide, not just Quincy. Domestic violence's part in the case. Rebecca's family and friends started discussing her problems with Timothy, presenting him as an angry and domineering spouse. According to reports, Rebecca lived in constant fear despite her best efforts to keep her kids safe and keep things somewhat regular. Her tragic story caught the attention of domestic abuse advocacy groups who emphasized how Rebecca's murder highlighted the frequently concealed risks of violent relationships. According to her relatives, Rebecca had confided in close friends about her worries regarding Timothy's actions. Many others wondered if more might have been done to protect her, which brought even more sadness to an already awful scenario. The proof that supported Timothy's conviction. The evidence that investigators found was damning, and they worked feverishly to construct a case against Timothy. Items discovered in Timothy's house had gunpowder residue on them, according to a forensic examination of the crime scene. On the night of the murder, Timothy was seen on surveillance tape close to Rebecca's house. The split couple's emails and texts also revealed Timothy's increasing hostility and threats towards Rebecca. The fact that Timothy had access to a gun connected to the crime was a crucial piece of evidence. These conclusions, along with the testimony of the witnesses, gave the jury a clear picture and decided Timothy's destiny. As the courtroom drama plays out. Timothy's trial garnered national attention and was a high-profile event. The chronology of events leading up to Rebecca's murder was presented by the prosecution convincingly. The courtroom broke down in tears as Rebecca's relatives and friends gave moving testimony about her hardships and anxieties. Timothy's defense team contended that there wasn't enough proof, presenting him as the target of false claims. The jury wasn't convinced, though. The trial made clear the terrible effects that domestic abuse can have on families, as well as its harsh realities. For Rebecca and thousands like her, the verdict would be a turning point in the struggle for justice. The decision: no parole for life. Timothy W. Bliffnick was convicted of first-degree murder on May 31, 2023. and given a life sentence without the chance of release. Rebecca's family felt some closure after the punishment, but the grief of her passing persisted. The judge emphasized the irreparable harm caused by Timothy's crime and denounced his acts as cruel and calculated. The sentence, which guaranteed Timothy would never again be a threat to others, was a victory for justice campaigners, but it also raised unanswered questions about how their relationship's warning indicators have been ignored for so long. The response of Steve Harvey to the case. Because of Timothy's notorious remark on Family Feud, Steve Harvey, the show's popular host, was unintentionally linked to the case. Although Harvey remained silent during the trial, those close to him disclosed his shock and grief at the loss. In retrospect, Harvey reportedly found Timothy's on-air joke disturbing because it highlighted the underlying conflicts in his marriage. In a subsequent interview, the host, renowned for his wisdom and humor, indirectly addressed the tragedy by mentioning the value of wholesome relationships. His response was a reminder that even humorous situations can conceal more profound realities. The effect on the children of Blick. The effect on Timothy and Rebecca's 3 young children is among the case's most tragic. As their extended family stepped in to offer stability and care, the children, who had been left orphaned by the events, faced an uncertain future. Rebecca's family put much effort into helping the kids recover rather than exposing them to the media craze around the trial. Support groups and counselors were brought in to help the kids deal with their unfathomable loss. Their tale is a heartbreaking reminder of how violence can have a lifelong impact on innocent people. The legacy of Rebecca Blick. Since her untimely passing, people have been motivated to support victims of domestic abuse in remembrance of Rebecca. Her medical colleagues remembered her as a kind nurse who consistently went above and beyond for her patients. Following her death, her family founded a foundation to support victims and increase awareness of domestic abuse. To preserve Rebecca's memory and highlight the significance of identifying the warning signs of abuse, the community came together. Thanks to their efforts, Rebecca's story inspires discussions about prevention and assistance for those in need. The function of the media in strengthening the argument. The Blick case was widely covered by the media, which examined every aspect of the crime, trial, and fallout. Some questioned the sensationalism surrounding the tragedy, while others saw it as a chance to raise awareness of domestic abuse. Actual crime programs and national news networks explored the case in depth, making it more well-known. Because Rebecca's family found it difficult to compromise between protecting their private life and spreading awareness, the case also spurred discussions about privacy. Ultimately, the media's participation highlighted the advantages and disadvantages of publicizing such delicate issues. The well-known Family Feud scene. Timothy Blick's scathing remark that marriage is a mistake made his appearance on Family Feud famous. "What was the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?" host Steve Harvey said. "Saying I do," Timothy replied. The crowd chuckled at what appeared to be a lighthearted joke, but the comment reflected a menacing undertone in retrospect. Originally intended as entertainment, this program played a significant role in the crime story. Following Rebecca's death, viewers and analysts reviewed his comments and mannerisms. It demonstrated how a joke on national television may later represent a real-life crisis. How the case involved Family Feud. Unexpectedly, the Family Feud episode became crucial to the conversation around the murder investigation. Media outlets and organizations for domestic violence pointed to Timothy's marital joke as a disturbing illustration of the problems that were present in his relationship. The prosecution utilized the video to emphasize Timothy's animosity toward Rebecca, presenting a picture of a man whose animosity went beyond light conversation. The episode served as a sobering reminder that even seemingly insignificant incidents can have deeper connotations, even though the show's producers chose not to react publicly. The story became more convoluted due to the relationship to the case. Response of the public to Timothy's statement. The public quickly expressed shock and incredulity upon the resurfacing of the notorious clip. Comments flooded social media, with many denouncing Timothy's statements as a warning sign that had been overlooked. Viewers closely examined his behavior on the show and discussed whether or not his remarks suggested more serious marital problems. Survivors of domestic violence discussed their personal stories, highlighting how abuse's subtle symptoms are frequently disregarded. The public's response made clear how critical it is to identify and handle these warning indicators before they worsen. Conversations concerning the covert dynamics of abusive relationships centered on Timothy's comments. Social media's role in the case. Social media significantly contributed to the spread of Timothy and Rebecca Blick's tale. The revived viral Family Feud tape sparked widespread discussions over their relationship and the crime. As true crime fans analyzed the case's specifics, advocacy organizations used social media sites like Instagram and Twitter to raise awareness about domestic abuse. This internet attention, though, had drawbacks. Although it raised awareness, it also imposed intrusive scrutiny on Rebecca's family. The case demonstrated social media's ability to shape public opinion and its drawbacks and impact discussions on delicate subjects. The reaction of Family Feud to the case. Family Feud became unintentionally associated with the tragedy as the case garnered widespread notice. In a statement, the show's producers distanced themselves from Timothy's acts and offered their condolences to Rebecca's family. The incident sparked discussions over the accountability of entertainment platforms when their content is connected to actual crimes. This case provided a sharp reminder of the intersection of entertainment and reality, even if the show was still on. The show's viewers questioned whether Timothy's appearance might have been a warning sign and whether future incidents of this kind should be treated with more gravity. Things we can learn from Rebecca's story. Rebecca's heartbreaking tale is a potent reminder of how critical it is to address domestic abuse. Her passing has spurred essential discussions regarding the importance of community support for victims. Resources for victims are now more publicly advertised, and friends and relatives are urged to come out if they see indications of abuse. Rebecca's legacy has become a lighthouse for change, calling people to put awareness, education, and action first. Her death was not in vain because advocacy organizations have utilized her narrative to highlight how urgent it is to provide safe spaces for people in abusive relationships. The life of Timothy before the crime. Timothy Blick had an everyday existence before participating in Family Feud and the horrible events. A father of 3 and a former collegiate athlete, he was well known in his neighborhood for being gregarious. However, as his marriage to Rebecca fell apart, friends and acquaintances noticed a change in his conduct. According to reports, Timothy battled sentiments of bitterness and inadequacy, which might have influenced his behavior. His experience raises concerns about whether the intervention could have stopped the outcome and illustrates how emotional strife may turn into tragedy. The crime's ripple effect. Rebecca's passing had an impact on friends, co-workers, and the larger community, in addition to her immediate family. At the hospital where she worked, her co-workers lamented the passing of a devoted nurse and friend. Advocacy organizations utilized her experience to demand legislative changes, including required training on identifying the warning indications of domestic abuse. Additionally, the case resulted in more money being allocated to nearby shelters and victim support initiatives. Rebecca's passing served as a spur for transformation, motivating group efforts to tackle the broader social problems brought to light by the tragedy. The role of media in covering tragedies. Rebecca's situation received a lot of press, which made people wonder how the media covered such delicate subjects. Some questioned the sensationalism and the breach of the family's privacy, while others applauded the coverage for raising awareness of domestic abuse. As journalists struck a balance between their need to inform the public and their sympathy for the bereaved family, ethical issues came into play. Advocacy organizations urged media outlets to focus on increasing awareness rather than taking advantage of tragedy and demanded more responsible reporting. The case served as a lesson on the value of careful and considerate journalism. The role of friends and family in preventing tragedies. The case of Rebecca emphasizes how important it is for friends and family to identify and respond to the warning signals of abuse. Many people were unaware of Rebecca's anxieties, even though she had shared her troubles with a few close pals. The significance of keeping lines of communication open and being alert for any warning indications has been highlighted by this catastrophe. Support organizations have advised family members to follow their gut feelings and step in when they suspect a problem. Rebecca's tale is a powerful reminder of our obligation to look out for and support one another. Rebecca's family's aftermath. After Rebecca's untimely death, her family experienced unspeakable anguish. They concentrated their efforts on making sure justice was done and shielding her kids from more harm. Rebecca's parents shared her experience to aid others in similar circumstances and became outspoken supporters of domestic abuse awareness. In addition, the family tried to keep Rebecca's kids' lives regular by giving them the affection and encouragement they required to recover. Their fortitude in the face of catastrophe inspired many and demonstrated the value of family unity in overcoming hardship. The case's cultural impact. Numerous conversations concerning relationships, domestic abuse, and the connection between entertainment and actual tragedy were sparked by the Blick case, which turned into a cultural touchpoint. Advocacy groups use the narrative to highlight how critical it is to support victims and address toxic habits. In many regions, the case also resulted in policy changes, such as more financing for initiatives to prevent domestic abuse. Even though the tragedy is still a devastating part of Rebecca's family's history, its cultural influence has spurred significant changes and motivated group efforts to stop future occurrences of this kind. If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon